Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Jones. I'm the Director of Innovations for Maryland Department of Health, Developmental Disabilities Administration. I want to welcome each and every one of you to the first in a series of Let's Talk Technology. Uh, Let's Talk Tech, the Developmental Disability Administration is committed to promote person-centered accessibility technology as a cornerstone of the community support. In alignment with this vision, we are offering a three-part training series on practical smartphone use, empowering adults with disabilities and seniors to increase confidence, independence, social connectivity through their devices. These live presentations and if you're watching as a recording will serve staff, family members, tech savvy volunteers, self advocates, and others by showcasing how to leverage accessibility features and specialized apps. Drawing from Drawing on a 35 years of experience as a speech language pathologist and assistive technology specialist, Joan Green, the founder of Innovative Speech Therapy, will streamline the learning curve of participants can quickly benefit from a rapidly evolving technologies and AI-enabled tools. Smartphones are among the most impactful devices for fostering independence and community integration by optimizing features and discovering alternative options. Participants will learn how to enhance life at home, work, and in the community. So we welcome you to this series. A little bit of housekeeping. All accessibility tools have been turned on. You can find them at the bottom of your screen where it says AI Companion. So, without further ado, we introduce Joan Green.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be here today. And I hope that you all find this a very worthwhile hour today, and it will change your trajectory of using technology moving forward. So excuse me, we're here to talk about maximizing independence with smartphones. And I do want to mention that I've created most of the images in this presentation with Canva and with the assistance of AI using Gemini and ChatGPT. So this is for you. Welcome. You are a big group. We had about 300 people register. Right now, we have almost 50 people live. I know a lot of people are relying on the recording. But what I'd love for you to do right now is to enter in the chat where you're joining us from, what you do, why you're here. I think it's really important for us to get connected and to get to know each other. And I'm going to ask you to really try to focus in on me for the next hour and to learn as much as you possibly can. So turn on your do not disturb and close your other windows and really give this your full attention, and you'll be glad that you did. So, some of you are providers, caregivers. You may be an individual receiving services. You may be a family member, a lifelong learner, a tech novice, or a tech expert. So again, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. I'm going to see if hopefully that is all working. And I will be monitoring the chat and the questions and I know Stephanie's going to help with that.
Yeah,
But I also, so we have some Potomacs, a lot of people joining from Potomac.
Eastern Shore.
Great. So
Mhm.
happy to have you all. And you do have the ability to private chat with each other. So if you see somebody you can direct message them if you want through the chat. It's good usually to have it go to everyone, because what I want you to do is, as I share information, let us know if you've tried something, how it went, if you had a stumbling block, if you know of another resource like that. And you can also, on the bottom in your Zoom menu, you can go to where it says more, and then you can go to reactions or react, and you can, give a thumbs up or a thumbs down or whatever. So the more that you actively participate and engage, the better, and we all benefit. And then you are able to save the chat. If at the end with the three dots, you can save it and have that. But it'll also be in the Zoom recording. Okay, so let's learn from each other. Here are some of the goals for these 3 sessions. I hope to empower participants with a train the trainer approach. So a lot of you are people who help others. So I'm hoping that by today, you're going to have a lot of ideas moving forward to help people with adults with developmental disabilities, seniors, and yourself. And we're really focusing on the smartphone. So we're going to try to enhance communication and social connection. And I really want you to pay attention to the accessibility needs because there are so many great resources that a lot of people don't realize exist. And then in the third session, we're going to talk about promoting safety, organization, and self-reliance. So this is all about tech for success. Smartphones are one of the single most impactful tools for independence and community integration. I have an awful lot of information in these slides. You'll have access to all of these slides and all of the live links that you can save. So I'm not going to be covering in detail all of the information, but you'll have access to it. So tech can help overcome all kinds of challenges: reading and writing, speaking and understanding, getting around, loneliness, mental health, engagement, thinking. And today in the first session, we're going to be talking about communication essentials. So getting started, initial access and setup, audio and video calls, texting and contact. So that's the major focus for the next hour. Then next week, we're going to talk about increasing independence and safety. We'll talk about digital safety, getting around, health and wellness, camera and photos, and alternative device options. Excuse me, if the smartphone isn't doable. And then in session 3, we're going to be talking about organization and productivity. So we'll talk about tasks, email, calendar, reminders, and documents and file management. All right, so getting started. I know that a lot of people, when it comes to technology, it can be scary and overwhelming, and it can lead to a lot of problems. But I'd like for you to have an open mind and stay curious. And I'm hoping that together we will all develop a new tech mindset. And so I like to think my tech mindset is whenever I see something, I think about how can readily available and free or low-cost technologies help others to experience success with everyday tasks, stay socially connected, and enjoy life. So whenever I see a device, I am always thinking about that, and I'm always exploring all of the settings and features and thinking about new ways to use things. Let's look for the lowest hanging fruit first, right? So I have a picture of a tree. And again, in Gemini, I created this and I said, please create an image of an apple tree with one apple hanging low on a branch. And I got that image. So, and we'll be talking a little bit about AI, but I do all kinds of presentations on AI. So what can have the greatest impact with the least resistance and be readily available with limited expense. I mean, that would be great, right? Let's make our life easy. So let's enhance independence with everyday tech. We're focusing on the smartphones. That's the most popular tech device that everybody has, or a lot of people have, not everybody. It has amazing built-in features. And I'm taking a train the trainer approach. So I am assuming I'm speaking to people who are going to be helping others. That's just how I'm presenting this. If I were speaking directly to a lot of aging adults or adults with developmental disabilities, I would go a lot slower and I would have a little bit of a different approach. But I'm taking a train the trainer approach here in this presentation. So when I work directly one-on-one with clients and patients, it's a little different. I want you to really learn what's possible. So today, once you know what's possible, then you can dig in to learn more. We want to stay person-centered, right? It's all about the individual. And so what we want to do is we're going to think first about the person and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then what features they might need, and then pick the tech. We want to keep on exploring, trying new things, and stay curious. So this is the first question I have for you all. How comfortable are you with technology? So in the chat, I want you to put a 1 if if you think like tech is a burden, it's always changing, and if something can go wrong, it will. You need to seek out others for constant support, and you avoid using tech whenever possible. And again, you don't have to put it into chat, but it's sort of helpful for me to see. Or 1 through 5, and 5 would be you enjoy exploring new ways to use tech. If there's a problem, you can usually figure out a solution, and others tend to come to you for help. You're sort of a leader in this. So I see, thanks for participating. I see we have a lot of 3s and 4s, a 2, um, a 5. So Mariam is a 5, and Stephen is 4.5, and Treve is a 5. So really look, if you recognize any of these names, the people with the 4s and the 5s, they are your go-to people, right? If I were with you in person, I would have them stand up and everybody look around, and because everybody has to have some people to go to for help. What is the antidote to the fear and overwhelm technology can cause? So a lot of people that are writing 1s and 2s, a lot of people are like just don't even want to deal with it. It causes problems. Things are going to break. It's sort of a negative experience. But I think a lot of these people realize that they hear such great things about it. They just don't. Maybe you're here because you're curious about what it can offer. So anybody have any guesses to what the antidote is to the fear and overwhelm that tech can cause? I think it's circles of support. The antidote to the fear and the overwhelm is having people around you who can support you with the technology in your setting. And so everyone needs these go-to people. And what I'm encouraging you to do, I know that there are many people here from all over the state of Maryland and beyond. Form tech support teams. Try to find a couple of people in your community that are rah tech or willing to learn or at least have an open mind, and then you'll have these teams of support, and then these are the people that the staff members and or residents can go to, because when we were working we would have tech people to help us, and now a lot of us, it just doesn't exist for this mainstream use of technology for communication. So if any of you have these go-to circles of support, let us know how they're working or what you've come up with, because again, I really want you guys learning from each other. So I'm Joan Green. Think of me as your tech advisor and coach. I'm so happy to meet you. I love learning about emerging technologies. I am based in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I'm actually a speech language pathologist. My business is innovative speech therapy, and I've been doing this since I got my master's at Northwestern in Chicago in 1986. So it's been a long time, and I worked with adults at Fairfax Hospital in Northern Virginia for years with stroke and head injury and concussions. And then I started having my own kids. I have 4 kids who are now young adults, and I'm the grandmother of 3. And I'm very much immersed in elder care. So I work with people of all ages, all abilities, and I'm always thinking about how tech can help improve lives. And it makes my day to help others improve life with tech. And, I offer free 15-minute phone consults with people all over the globe. So really, if you see something and you want to learn more about it and you need someone to talk to, you'll have access to these slides. You can just click on my link or go to innovativespeech.com. Every day I'm talking to people and helping them figure out their next steps for free. I'm not a pushy salesman type. I also formed a Tech Life Inner Circle membership, which I would love if you guys form these support circles for tech. One person could join the Tech Life Inner Circle, and every single week I'm helping people brainstorm solutions to help others and give 15-minute tech talks. I have a free Facebook group, IST Tech Savvy Solutions, that's also helpful. We have a lot of people. It's not that active, but I hope to change that. So there's lots of support, and I'm hoping that you identify your local tech lead, someone who's comfortable with smartphones, tablets, and mainstream tools, and they know how to set things up, troubleshoot, and customize accessibility features, and they can teach and encourage others at their own pace and keep up with simple tech updates, tools, and best practices. They don't have to be an IT expert. I'm not an IT expert at all. I'm just someone, and others are curious, patient, and willing to help others. So I'm hoping that this will help you all develop, motivate you to really develop some of these local tech leads. So, what is the secret to feeling comfortable with tech? I have a lot of times where, someone's struggling and struggling and struggling, and I can go up and I can just help them really quickly. And they're like, how did you know how to do that? And I've never seen the device before. I've never seen the app before. I can just figure it out. And so I think the secret is knowing the language. You need to decode text language and search for clues. So being curious is really important. A lot of times I think we try to memorize steps, click on this, click on this, click on this. And what happens is anytime there's an update or you go to a new device, even if it's the same tool, things will look different and be in different spots. And so, it's a temporary fix to be able to write out exact steps, but it might not last that long. We really need to decode text language. So I have two symbols here. Does anybody know what those symbols mean? Feel free to write it in the chat. If you have those three dots or if you have three lines. Settings, not really settings. Menu, Kyra got it. Ding, ding, ding. Menu or Kyra and Stephen. Yeah, it's the menu. So whenever you see that, you see it more often on a smartphone. So this first thing is called an ellipsis, or in the second one, a hamburger sign. But basically, images like this mean more, or additional menus, or click to see more options. Because even on Zoom, if you're on a big screen, you're going to see a whole lot more options than if you're, participating in Zoom on a smartphone, and then you're going to see the three dots and more. I mean, you're even going to see that on a big screen. But that, just really, if you don't see something that you think should be there, click on more. And I'm going to go through I'll do one more of these. But, how many, think to yourself, do you recognize all four of these symbols? Or one, two, or three? You can write in chat if you want. But here, like this first one, whenever you have a microphone, that tells you there's an ability to speak or dictate, and you can turn the microphone on or off. The second one are the speakers. Maybe it's how to turn the volume up or down or mute or silence. If you have a T in a box, that's a place where probably you can click on it and add text. And then you've got your upload and download, or do something with whatever the information is. So I've got a whole bunch of these, and I'm going to go through them. And I share like I have a presentation where I'll give you the opportunity, if you want, to download this Google Slides or PowerPoint, whichever you use. And you can use this as a teaching tool to teach people the language of tech. And you'll create a forced copy and you can edit it. So these, I have this, print, copy, power, brightness. If you recognize these, mobile data, reload or refresh, favorites in your browser, and share. So I'm going through this sort of fast just because I have a lot to share here, but here's some. See if you recognize these. This is Gemini, Siri, live captioning on iOS, and the Control Center on iOS. All right, so I'm going to go through these because, just to save time. So you'll get a copy of these slides, and what will happen is if you click on this link, you will create a forced copy for yourself. Okay, so moving on, we want to make sure to have a person-centered approach, right? It's all about the individual. And the framework that we're going to really start with is called the SET framework, and they use this in the schools, created by Joy Zabala. And so first, here it says student, but really adult, senior, whoever. We think about the person and their needs first. Then we think about the environment that they're in, work, school, home, volunteering, whatever. We think about the tasks that they need to be able to do, right? Reading, writing, listening, understanding, speaking, remembering. And then we think about what tools are available: a computer, a tablet, a phone. Is there Wi-Fi? What's around or what can be purchased. And then comes the training. And the training isn't a one and done, right? It's you have to try something out, practice it, tweak the settings, come back and adjust. So it's really ongoing. And so if you have a tech team, um, people can circle back at regular intervals because people's needs are constantly changing. So we want to set the stage for success and think about what does a user need and what are their pain points. If everything is going great, you might not need to use tech. We don't want to force it on people if everything is great. But maybe everything isn't so great. Maybe their life could be better if they had access and understood how to use certain tools. So, what barriers exist? What has worked and what hasn't with the phone, because we're focusing on the phone here. And has anyone tried to overcome the barriers and explore solutions? So let's think about different accessibility features. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of these. Actually, I'm going to start with a live demo of my phone. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, I'm going to stop the share. And then I'm going to reshare for those of you who do presentations. And in Zoom, I'm going to go to the advanced setting and iPhone AirPlay. And I'm going to share with that. And so now what's going to happen is I'm on my iPhone and I'm going to go to I'm going to do the display mode. And so I can share my exact phone. So I went to the screen mirroring feature of my iPhone, which is great because now I can show you exactly what I'm going to be doing here. So I have slides on this, but sometimes it sinks in better if you see it live. So I'm going to select settings. Sorry. Yeah, settings. Okay, this is what I meant to get to, settings. And then, so on any device, but today we're talking about the iPhone, we're going to go down and you'll see accessibility. So I'm going to select accessibility. And then, we're going to look at a few of these accessibility features. So let me know, when was the last time you looked at settings, really, on your computer, on your phones, on your tablets? There are so many amazing accessibility features. So it's split into categories. We have vision. So this top section is all about vision. So voiceover is something really good for people with really low vision and blindness. And so a lot of people think that that's just this, selecting text to speak out loud. And don't use voiceover for that because it really changes all the gestures. That's really for people with low vision. But you can look at the options for Zoom, display text size, spoken content. I'm going to be showing you that. So if you want to be able to select content, like in an email message or online, you can enable speak selection or speak screen. And then it gives you the instructions. A speak button will appear when you select the text. So I'll enable speak selection and speak screen. I like the content highlighted, so I like to have that on. I don't have typing feedback. I don't want to hear the letters and words as I type them, but maybe you do. And you can choose the speaking rate. So then what can happen is when you select text, it will be read aloud. Let me go back. All right, then we have a bunch of physical and motor accommodations. So if you have somebody that has a tremor or a very light touch, you can go in, dig in, and you can change some of these settings. You can change reachability so that there's it's all of the buttons are near the edge. If you're working on a big iPad and somebody has to hold it with one hand, I don't know. There are different scenarios, and I'll go through some of these. But I just wanted you to see live how to get to some of these. So there's also eye tracking now. Hearing, you can connect hearing aids directly to your phones. You can have captioning, live caption enabled so that as the person speaks, you can talk to them and they'll see what you say. You can have live speech, which I'm going to talk about, where somebody can type and the person on the other side will hear what they've said. So there's a whole lot here, guided access, assistive access. So I just wanted you to see live how to get to that. Okay, so let me go back to the presentation here. Okay. So I just showed you, all smartphones go, even if you're on an Android, go to the accessibility section and check it out. Then you also want to think about the initial access. How hard is it for the user to get into their phone, right? You can take off a password so that you don't have to use anything to get into the phone, but we have to balance the ease of access with privacy concerns. Sometimes there's a long password. Sometimes you can have it be just your finger. Sometimes you can have it recognize your face with Face ID. So there are lots of things to keep in mind. Um, and that's what this talks about. So here's the Face ID where you can hold it up. So if the barrier is putting in a password, with these new phones now, they can just automatically unlock for the user. Um, the latest operating systems is the latest operating system for an iPhone is iOS 18, and that came out in May of 2025. So, I think, a lot of the features that I'm going to tell you have to be able to use the latest operating system and have a iPhone 11 or later. So sometimes it's the operating system and sometimes it's the phone. So where we run into trouble sometimes when helping people is their phones are too old. But I'm still going to be showing you a lot of the latest stuff. Apple Intelligence is now included in iPhone 15 Pro and later. Um, and if you're not sure what your phone is that you're using, you can go into settings and then general and about to figure that out. So Android phones, Android 15 came out in September of 2024, and that's the latest operating system. And there are different types of Android phones, so it's harder to speak about them because they're all a little different. We've got the Samsung Galaxy series, we've got the Google Pixel series, um, and so they're all a little bit different. And so again, you can go to settings and then about device, and then you can find out exactly what the person is using. And in the iPhone, I showed you this live. The accessibility is broken down into these different sections. And in Android accessibility, it's broken down into vision, hearing, interaction, and dexterity. And I see Kyra asked, does Apple have a tutorial video showing these features? Absolutely. Yeah. So let me show, I sort of skipped over that. But if you go into Apple accessibility right here, it's really good. And then you can go under iPhone and it'll show you, everything that's available in the iPhone. And you can see the features and it'll take you through all of these different features. So these companies have very good support. And Google, the same thing. If you have an Android phone or using the Google apps, you can go under the Google accessibility and really learn more about this. But just knowing, so for today, I want you just to know about what's possible. All right, let me skip ahead here. Okay, so now I have some scenarios to bring this to life. Leah is always frustrated using her phone. She tries to touch it and it just doesn't respond the way it should. Leah's my mom. She's got arthritis and a lot of older adults when they touch it just doesn't work right. So screens might not respond to touch because people tap too lightly or too quickly. A lot of people have really dry or cold fingers, so the skin conductivity isn't great. Maybe there's screen protectors or a case that interferes, or they're dirty or smudged screens, or there's reduced dexterity or support. And here you might want to try, you can either go into settings and accessibility and touch accommodations, or have them try to use a stylus. And so I often have a couple styli, I think you call it, with me because they have different sizes. You want to make sure that it's compatible with the phone or whatever device you're using, but it can really help improve accuracy and reduce frustration, as can these different touch accommodations. So you just got to play with it. Make sure the screen is clean, and some of the protectors might really make it worse, those screen protectors. More ideas to help with touch. You can enable visual or auditory feedback. So you can see a dot or a ripple when the screen is touched. You can adjust the tap duration or delay settings. And that's really helpful for people with slower or less accurate tapping. You can train with practice apps or games. So build confidence with tapping, dragging, swiping. Like sometimes I'll play solitaire or some simple games just to get the person used to moving things around, or popping balloons, popping bubbles, or all kinds of little apps. And then there are different simplified smartphone modes. So on an iPhone, there's something called guided access that's been around since iOS 6, where you can lock a user into an app. So if somebody is, they want to be working with something or reading, you know, a paper or doing something, they keep getting out by accident, or there's a behavior issue and you want them to stay in it, guided access is your best friend. I use that a lot when back when I did a lot of therapy with autistic clients, I would lock them in with guided access because they kept wanting to get out and do other things. And if there's an augmentative communication app, it's best practice to leave that in with guided access as a dedicated communication device for AAC, augmentative and alternative communication. Assistive access is relatively new. It came out with iOS 17, and it totally simplifies the use of the phone. And I believe I have a picture of that next. If you have a Samsung phone, there's an easy mode that's really great. And there's a Pixel phone that has simple view. So, on your phone, look for the easy modes. This is assistive access that I used with my dad actually in the last 6 months of his life when he was having more cognitive problems, and the phone was just too complicated for him. And so I set this up. You just go to settings, accessibility, general, and set up assistive access. And then you pick the apps that are most important to the user. So I pick calls, messages, music, and camera, and they're redesigned to be larger and easier to use. A trusted supporter needs to know the password for the phone and the Apple ID. And you set up a separate password to get in and out of this assistive access. But I've worked a lot with developmentally delayed adults where they can't use the phone or it's been too complicated, and they've been very successful once it's set up this way because it's easier to use. Any questions? Okay, I think.
There's no other questions.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
All right, so let's talk phones. All right, how can we help improve the experience of audio and video calls? What are the individual's needs? We want to capitalize on their strengths and support areas of weakness. So if we're talking audio calls, maybe the person is inarticulate or inaudible and the other person can't understand them over the phone. Maybe they have apraxia, aphasia, dysarthria. You can tell I'm a speech pathologist, slurred speech, word retrieval problems. They just can't communicate fluently to express themselves. Maybe there's a hearing impairment. Maybe the person can't hear over the phone. Maybe they can't focus on the call. Maybe they have a hard time remembering what was said. Maybe they have a hard time actually calling the correct number. So there are lots of challenges for calls. So let's look at a couple of scenarios to bring this to life. Roberto has speech and voice issues. He can't type. He can type, but can't be understood due to vocal cord issues, as well as slurred speech. So what might we do? Feel free to put ideas in the chat, but I will keep going. I would consider live speech if he's using an iPhone. The feature enables users who are unable to speak aloud but can type. The ability to type using the speaker and in calls, what? The ability to, I don't, basically they type and then it's said aloud on the other end of the call. And you can also type in phrases and store them in categories for quick communication. So again, most of these things you have a link. So here you can click on it and see exactly how to use it. There's also something called personal voice. So a personal voice can be created if the user can read aloud 150 phrases. So I worked recently with a lovely young woman with cerebral palsy, and her voice was hard to understand. But people close to her could understand it, and so she couldn't do things like speech to text because the phone couldn't understand her. So we created a personal voice um, so that if she is using some of these other tools that will be reading, if she's going to use type to talk, it would then use it would sound like her voice talking. So, so that was really cool. You can create a personal voice instead of using the voice, a more robotic sounding voice or even one of the AI voices. This will sound like you. And then there are solutions for if somebody can't be understood very well, these are amazingly great resources that you might not know about. Voice It was developed in Israel. It's not free. I think it's maybe $500 a year, but you can try it for a month for free. And what this does is you train it on your voice and it pretty much translates it into intelligible speech for others. Really cool stuff. So Voice It is wonderful for both helping you communicate in conversation with other people or ordering in a restaurant where you talk to it and then it says out loud in intelligible speech so that others can understand. Or you talk to it and it will type out what you've said, and then you can text that information or create a document with that information. Really cool. If anyone has, and Kyra says she has experience using Voice It for two people she supports, and it's a great resource. The person that I worked with said it's about 90, before her speech was maybe 30% intelligible. Now it's maybe 85% intelligible. So it's not perfect, but really helpful. So it's definitely worth a try. Oh, and Project Relate, so if you go to this link, this is a Google research project, and you can read about this. This is free, but you have to have an Android phone. And so you can train yourself through this, and I haven't used it personally, but I've heard wonderful things about it. And all these companies are getting together to really help, create these solutions. And then there's a whole world of AAC apps, which I'm not going to go into detail, but I did want to talk about them a little bit for, people that are nonverbal communicators. I think that a speech language pathologist should really do an assessment to see if there are more robust tools that maybe that person could benefit from. And so I put, they can be symbol-based AAC apps or text-based AAC apps, because we really never know what's within this person that we want to help, right? We can't assume that they don't have more to say. Maybe if we set them up with more supports, they would be able to. You never know. So I really like Speech Assistant AAC. If somebody is able to understand written words and to write some words, here's an image of it over here on the right. It's really inexpensive, maybe $20 or something, and it's very robust and it has a lot of great features. Sometimes we need simple-based AAC apps like Proloquo to Go, Touch Chat, Lab Words for Life, Bridge AAC. There are a lot of them. And so they all have pros and cons. Um,
Joan, excuse me, can you explain AAC for those
uh,
who can't read the screen, please?
Sure. AAC up here at the top says augmentative and alternative communication. So these are tools and strategies that support people who have difficulty speaking or writing. So that's a whole field within speech therapy. There are some AAC specialists, but it used to be that you had to get these really expensive devices, for thousands and thousands of dollars. And now there are many apps that if people don't have really significant visual or dexterity problems, an app may be just fine. And so that's another, and this is all about using the smartphone. So I wanted to put in a little something about AAC apps. I mean, it's probably better to have a bigger screen and use maybe an iPad um, or an Android tablet. But the phone is what most people have all of the time with them. And so there are some really great apps that you can use on the phone. Oh, so here I put the pros and cons. It's always available, it fits in your pocket, and you can customize it for different needs and languages. The cons is if you use it on a phone, it's a small screen. And for some people, you need a real dedicated communication device just for AAC that's helpful for people that have some mobility and visual challenges. All right, next scenario, difficulty hearing. Lila has a difficult time hearing what others say, especially when trying to talk on the phone or when there's background noise. So, and I see Carolyn asked, does it work with pictures? There are picture-based AAC apps. Yeah, okay. Difficulty hearing. So there are lots of iPhone features for hearing. I should say phone features because they're both on Android and iPhone. You don't need anything extra. Live captions, you just turn it on. And I know my mom had to have her hearing aid replaced and she didn't have a spare. And so I turned on live captions on her phone so she could talk to other people at the lunch table. So she could just see what they said and then she could talk back. So again, lots of different ways to connect hearing aids. Well, you can connect hearing aids with the phone and you can use live caption. Um, Live caption is also on Android. And then there are also like Live Listen, Conversation Boost, Sound Amplifier. Again, you can go back and look these up, but these are ways to use your smartphone as a microphone to boost the signal so that you can hear better. And you would need to have either AirPods or Beats headphones or made for iPhone hearing aids. And so they make it easier for you to hear. And if you don't have a phone that will work with some of these features for hearing, these are great apps that will work on any of the mobile devices or phones, Live Transcribe and Ava, that you can see big captions of what people say. All right, next topic is video calls. We can support conversations visually. We want to help people stay socially connected, access remote supports, attend virtual appointments, and maintain routines. Video calls can be less confusing than audio calls or text-based communication. Hearing at the same time and seeing at the same time, you can see somebody's facial expressions, their gestures, body language. So video calls are really great. And you can also give visual supports like showing objects, actions, maps, calendars, and pictures. You can, share those over a video call and show things to people so they better understand. So you can use video calls to teach, the steps necessary in a task to make real-time instruction clearer. And people can observe from a distance and suggest strategies in real time. So I would think, let us know if you use this. Um, in the chat, definitely, if something rings a bell and you're using it and have had success, let us know. So there are lots of options for video calls. FaceTime is a real popular one. That's Apple, iPhone, iPad, and Mac users. You can have group calls. It's easy to use. And now you can create FaceTime links to invite non-Apple users via a browser. So I have three girls and a boy. My three girls all have iPhones. My son has an Android phone. And so we could never FaceTime with everybody until the feature came out that we could send him a link and then he could join us. WhatsApp is very popular. It's a good fit for Android and iPhone users who already use the app for texting and calls. Very popular globally. It works well with low data or slow internet. Um,
We have one question, if you
yeah.
you wanna take it now. Um, Carolyn says her son she has a son, is 22, and then she has a preschooler level. Do you have any, recommendations for apps that can work?
Carolyn, I think I'll have to talk to you because I don't know what the goal is of what you want. And in order to recommend, if it's AAC, we would have to talk. I offer free 15-minute calls. So I think the best thing to do would be to email me, joan@innovativespeech.com, and I can send you the link, or you can go to my website and pick a time and I can call you because I would need a lot more information, but thanks for asking. Okay, more video call options. Zoom, like we're doing now, great for virtual classes and telehealth. It's free for up to 100 people with a 40-minute time limit. The host controls the settings, so I've enabled captioning, which is why you all can see captions if you want them. And it can be simplified by using a Zoom app. You can make it easier for individuals on their phones to participate in Zoom. You can there are ways to put the Zoom app on there and have it show up, you know, front and center for them to use. Google Meet is free. That's another great one-to-one or meeting tool. It's free for individual or groups. It's integrated with Google Calendar and Gmail. You don't have to download anything. You go to meet.google.com and it's easy to use. So again, you could click on this link and all the instructions and a video about how to do it are here. All right, texting. Um, let's see, I'm gonna, so texting um, promotes independence. So I think the ability to text is really great. I think most people these days that's their number one choice, especially for the younger folk. It's helpful for adults with developmental disabilities and people that have trouble with verbal expression if they can type, because you don't have to talk and there's not that time pressure. You can take your time to process the information before responding. Um, it also gives you a visual record of the conversations, so it can help you with memory and comprehension and follow through. And you can text back and forth and give reminders and instructions and details. Um, Supporters can text reminders, attach checklists to things like when to take medication, when to go to an appointment, or reminders for lunch. You can include links and photos, and you can send audio messages if sending a text doesn't work well. So if you can't type, you can hold down. You can send an audio message if you hold down the microphone. So um, here's how to send a text by speaking, not typing. So you can, one option would be if you're on an iPhone and it's enabled, you could say, Siri, send a text to so and so. And you don't have to, I'll do that while I'm driving because I don't want to get my mind off the road. I'll say, Siri, send a text to Mark saying I'll be home late or something. And it just sends it. And I don't touch anything. Another way is you can use voice typing in the messaging app. So you click on the microphone, you talk, and it types it out where the cursor is blinking. And the third option on an iPhone is you can open up the conversation in the messaging app and select the plus. And then there's a red audio option, and you can dictate what you want to say, and it sends the audio file. It doesn't convert it into text. And on an Android, if you hold down the microphone within the message, you'll see that it will record audio. It used to be like that on iPhones, but it switched. But again, you'll see these steps. I don't expect you to memorize all this, but just to know it's possible. So again, here are some phone shots. So that on an iPhone, you click the plus and then you see this audio image. And so that's really great if somebody can't read, right? Or they can't convert their speech to text because there are too many errors. And it's really great. The recipient hears the person's voice. So, a lot of challenges with texting. You can have reading and comprehension problems. It's hard to compose responses, right? People might have all kinds of different challenges with motor, cognitive, or language issues. People might lose their phone or forget to charge it or get distracted. I mean, none of this is perfect. Um, Also, there's a learning curve with learning when it's appropriate to text, how often, what's too personal. And maybe people might scam you. People might text you and then they ask you for information, and it might be that the person with developmental disabilities just gives out too much information or leaves himself open to take advantage of. So we have to keep that in mind. So here's another scenario. Um, Oh, thank you, Robert, saying this information is helpful. Here's a scenario: reading and writing challenges. Stefan has a hard time reading the small print on his phone. He also has difficulty understanding and remembering what he reads. So I think of all the different types of reading support. You can enlarge the font in the accessibility settings. Explore having text read aloud in the accessibility settings. So I talked about enabling spoken content and select to speak when I showed that to you. Um, and, you know, it's called select to speak on both Android and iPhones. Beware of TalkBack on Android or VoiceOver on iPhones, because that's going to change all the gestures, because that's for people who are blind or have very low vision. So if that's you, if you are blind or have very low vision, it's a great thing. But if you're really just looking to have the text read aloud, that'll mess you up. So beware. And again, I put in screenshots so you see all the steps to click on. So here's the select to speak. All right, scenario: difficulty typing. Angelique has a hard time typing on the phone. She has poor dexterity and spelling problems. So that's when you think of speech to text. All smartphones have it. all smartphones can write what you say for free. It takes practice and requires clear speech and some edits. So here is just a screenshot um, of, find the microphone, click on the microphone, make sure the cursor's on the right spot, tap the microphone, speak clearly, tap again to stop dictating, and if it's not clear, try sending audio. So this one at the bottom is for the speech to text. This one up at the top here is to send audio. So there are two microphones. So that's a little bit confusing. That has changed. It used to be a little bit different. So the one at the bottom by the keyboard is for the speech to text. The one up at the top within the message where you're typing, the microphone will send the audio. All right, last section, contacts. How we use contacts. So think about all of the phones we're using have a contacts app or an address book. And so how can we use that as a provider or a parent or senior to help people with independence, memory, and communication? Feel free to write in the chat what you do. And let me show you, I'll do another live demo. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share and then I'm going to share again, go to advanced, iPhone AirPlay. Then I'm going to mirror my phone. I'm saying this out loud for those of you who might want to do this because I just think it's really effective. Okay, so here's my phone. And let's say I want to go to my contacts app. So I'm typing in contacts. And I'm going to create a new contact. So what are all the different ways, if we could add a photo and it'll open up your different photos and you could put in a photo of the person, right? So having a photo of the individual would be really helpful. You can type in their first name, last name, or company, add their phone, add their email, whatever. But what I really like to do is make sure down here under notes, add any other important information. Like, is it, maybe it's Bob's friend. You meet a new person and you want to remember it's Bob's friend. Or it's one of your doctors. So you could write doctor, because then later, like if I save this, whoops, and then later I try to search, I can't think of the person's name, but I write in doctor. All of the different people that are doctors that I gave that keyword doctor are going to show up, if that makes sense. So I always like to give myself clues. You can also put in people's interests and likes so you know what to talk about. Or you can put in, there are just so many different ways to give yourself help. Does anybody else use contacts to put in helpful information? Sometimes I'll put in the names of apps or websites that I have to create a username and password, and I'll put in like a code so I know what my password is, and I'll put in the name of the app there, and then maybe I'll put in a description of what the app is for, because it's hard to keep track of all this. So I use my contacts as a place to put in way more information than just the person's name and phone number. All right. So add supporting info, adding photos, relationships, maybe additional information like job coach, text if late, in the notes section. Any helpful information about expectations or what you talked about, just for social skills and memory. All right. Wow, we have pretty good timing here. Okay, so this is pretty much the conclusion of the first part. The second two are really loaded with content also, but I want you to think about, try to write in the chat, what will you try before our next session? Try to think of one or two new ideas to implement, either for yourself or to show somebody else. Maybe you're going to try to start forming a tech support team. Just a couple of changes can make a big impact in someone's life. And let's just spend a few minutes Oh, Lauren just said she bolded her text and can read and see better. Yeah, go into your settings of your phone because really you have to, like I've given you a lot of ideas, but try things out on yourself first and see what works and practice with it, and then you can better show somebody else. Kyra's interested in that personal voice text. Loanne said notes are very useful, especially doctor, first appointment, and their specialty. Yeah. And sometimes I'll put down questions that I want to ask the doctor or things that the doctor told me. I mean, I have other ways in Google Docs and Drive that I keep track of a lot of that. And we'll be talking about that the third session. I've got lots of tips and tricks. Rick talks about he has his house and cars in his contacts. I do too. I have my license plate number, all kinds of stuff. I try to include anything I need information for on the go. Even meds and surgeries are listed as contacts. Interesting. We're going to be talking about where to put all the medications and medical history and all that. I think we're talking about that next week. Let me see if there's anything else.
There are no more questions. Just
Or comments I like to
mhm.
see. Um, yeah. So that's it for today. Again, my email is joan@innovativespeech.com. Let me see. I thought that I
I
had,
added it to the chat earlier, your
okay.
your
I'm
email.
just gonna put in the chat in 1 minute. I thought I had put in a QR code, but I didn't see it there so that you guys could get a copy of the slides. So, because you don't have those. So I'm gonna give that to you in a moment so you can access that. Or maybe I'll also email it to everybody, but let me just get this for you.
So while Joan is working on that, I wanna thank everyone for coming and for your time, and I hope that you join us again, next week on the 21st for part 2. I think we got a lot of great information today. Thank you, Joan, so much. As a person who is a caregiver for an aging adult, I can't wait to get home and practice all this on her telephone and see what I could get her to do even better. So I
And
wanna
I
thank
just put it in the chat. So if you click on that link, um, you'll be able to get a copy of all these slides and links. And if for some reason it doesn't work, just email me, joan@innovativespeech.com, and I'll email it to you. Um, and that should work. And I look forward to next week. I have a lot of information for the next 2 sessions to share.
very good. Thank you, Joan, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
All right. Have a
And
good
again,
day.
the link is in there for the, PowerPoint slides, as well as Joan is gonna send it, and it will, be posted to the DDA, Technology First page on our website. And the video will be uploaded to our DDA YouTube probably by tomorrow.
Okay.
So thank you all again. Have a great day.